You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome to a special Friday edition of Cards to the Moon. In just a minute, we'll be playing an interview with Karlos Diego, aka Sluggers55, who came into the studio earlier this week to show us some of his monster cards, including the much talked about Michael Jordan Star 84 rookie card that he had in a BGS 8.5, as well as the iconic 1986 Fleer rookie card of MJ, BGS 9.5. So that combined is worth over $100,000. He also brought some amazing vintage cards as well, and we just talked about the cards themselves, why they're important in the hobby, how he acquired them, what he looks for when investing in vintage, and we talked a bunch about upcoming shows, including one here locally, the CSC show this Sunday on September 22nd, and the Fanatics Collect Orlando show in November. So please stay tuned for that. But because I'm recording this intro separately, a few days after the interview we had with Karlos, something historic just happened, which was Shohei Ohtani became the first MLB player to hit at least 50 home runs and steal 50 bases in one season. What an amazing feat. And just on cue, there's going to be a specially inscribed one-of-one Topps Now card commemorating this incredible achievement. We actually already recorded another podcast episode earlier today, which will be coming out this Tuesday. But in that episode, we were almost anticipating that this would happen. I just didn't think it would happen the same day we talked about it. Anyway, I'll be buying some Topps Now cards for the chance to win the one-of-one, as I'm sure many others will too. My guess is that there's going to be a huge bounty on that card. Again, just an incredible achievement. Congrats to Shohei. All right, also just as incredible are some of the cards Karlos brought to show us and talk about. So hope you enjoy this interview. Okay, so we got Karlos with us, our good friend Karlos. Last time we saw each other, we were at Fanatics Fest New York City.
That's correct.
So it's great to be in our hometown in Xiang's studio space, and we were just chatting on Instagram, and you know you mentioned that you had a lot of big cards. Of course, I've seen them already because I've been to your booth several times, and we always wanted to do something like this, like a show and tell.
Yes.
So it'll be great for our YouTube, and I know it's not as visually appealing on our podcast because it's all audio, but we'll describe what you'll be holding up, and we'll talk about some of these cards as well, because these are monster cards. Monster cards. And what I wanted to start off with is, because it's been in the headlines recently, and it's getting a lot of buzz, but you have one of these cards, and it's the 1984 Star Michael Jordan rookie card.
Yes.
And a huge card in the BGS 8.5, recently sold on eBay for just under $76,000.
That's correct.
And you mentioned there's another one listed on Golden Auctions. Is that right?
There is one currently on Golden Auctions right now, and it's at $65,000 US with about 12 or 13 days left to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that doesn't include the buyer's premium.
That doesn't include the buyer's premium.
So that'll go up to over $80,000 for sure.
It's past $80,000 with the buyer's premium.
So it's still going up. And can you tell, before we get into the crazy volatility of this card, and we're seeing an upswing right now. Do you know the history of the MJ Star rookie card?
I know a lot of MJ from 84 up until now.
Okay.
The card itself, they were issued in 3 different years in sets. So 83-84, 84-85, and 85-86.
Okay.
So, and they were all issued in team bags. Oh. Now, this particular card, there's 288 cards in the total set. Mm-hmm. There's actually 3 Jordans in there.
Yep.
Okay, so there is the 101.
Yep.
Then there is card 195, which is the Olympic card. Mm-hmm. And then there is the 288, which is the Jordan Rookie of the Year card.
I see.
Along with Charles Barkley Rookie, Akeem Olajuwon, and John Stockton. Yep. And also Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, like those players, right? Yeah. But it's probably the most iconic set, or one of the most iconic sets in the 80s. Sure. The only one that maybe trumps it or is on par with it is, of course, the 86-7 Fleer basketball set.
Yes, and you know what? I want to ask you about that because a lot of the headlines, a lot of the attention over the years has been on the 86 Fleer rookie. Why do you think it's getting the 84 star rookie card is getting a lot of buzz more recently?
First of all, the star rookie, is a licensed card, number one. Right. Okay, so it is licensed. It came out in Jordan's actual rookie year. So in my mind, that is the true rookie. Okay. However, Fleer had incredible marketing. Yes. Okay. Right. So with the marketing, they had this card or the set, and it came out because that was the next license. Because their Topps last license was like 1981. Okay. Yeah. We had Bird Magic Rookie 80-81. Then the last one after that was 81-2. Right. And then after that, Fleer took over in 1986. However, by the time Fleer got the license, this is already, Jordan has already been in the league basically 3 years. Gotcha. Right? So they feel the first Fleer card or the first licensed card at that point in time is the Fleer rookie. Okay. That's really how it goes. There's really no two ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just the way it is. Yeah. But there has been for many years, the reason why people didn't think the star rookie was not the rookie because it was in Beckett for the longest time as an XRC because it came in a team bag and it was not issued in a pack. That's the main reason why people think this is not the rookie. Right. Where the 86-7 Fleer basketball was obviously licensed. Yes. And also that was in a pack. Yeah. All right. So, boxes now go for about $150,000, somewhere in there. Right. A box Crazy. Of 86 Fleer, which is this one was in team bag. So this was never issued in a pack. The 86 Fleer was issued in a pack. No, I appreciate the clarification, and it's an ongoing hot debate between Jordan collectors, right? Yes. And I like how you laid out the arguments for and against each card. So that's amazing, and like we were saying off the top, there's like a resurgence for these 1984 star rookie cards of Michael Jordan. How do you see this playing out? Because we've seen the peaks and we've seen the valleys, and it keeps going in cycles. And we're certainly at a peak right now. Do you think this has a chance, even the BGS 8.5, to hit six figures? Or do you think it comes down and then comes back up again? I think it will hit six figures. There's quite a bit of supply on the market right now to suffice the demand. When cards like this end up going for a large amount of money, more come out. Right. That's just the way it is, right? True. So more come out. So you'll see medium grades or lower grades rather, from like 4s to maybe 6s. Yep. And then where it differentiates is when you get into the 8, 8.5s, 9s. Yes. And those. Like a PSA 9 of this card just sold for a little over $1 million. And there's only 3 of them. And my friend owned 2 of them. Okay. So I don't think a PSA 10 Jordan would, an 86 Fleer Jordan PSA 10 would command near that. No, right? Yeah. So it's about supply and demand. They're saying that there's far less supply of the 84 Star Jordans than there are of the 86 Fleer Jordans. Yeah. So supply makes a big difference as well. Not only grade, but definitely supply. Sure. Yeah. Fundamentals. Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned one of your friends had the PSE 9 of the Star. Yes. So was that the one that was sold recently? It was sold recently, yes. Okay. Yeah, maybe 2 weeks ago. I'm thinking it was about 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And a wonderful guy. His name is Dave. Okay. And he was at the National. He had 2 of them, and he turned down quite a big offer for the 2. Yeah. But he ended up selling one of them recently for a little over $1 million. I don't know the exact amount, but but a little over $1 million.
Yeah, no, it's been everyone's social media. That was a big sale. So congrats to Dave for that sale. You know what? I also want to ask you, like, how, there's a bunch of high-end sellers, especially at the national where there's a lot of vendors and dealers, and certainly in Canada, your Sluggers55. Shout out to Sluggers55.
Thank you.
Which Karlos is. Well, you want to tell about that story before we go on? Like, I know you've been on our podcast before, and for people that might have missed that episode, it was a store before you became...
It was a store. I had a store from 1990 all the way till 2007. Yeah, right. So I had a store for 17 years, essentially. And then I stopped. I closed down. And essentially, I wanted to do trade shows still. Yeah. So I still did many shows in Canada and in the US. And that's how I built my inventory. Okay. I kept buying and selling, and then picking up really good pieces. Yeah. Mainly basketball is what I would do. Yeah. So I would pick up a lot of MJ, Kobe, LeBron pieces at that point in time, along with vintage. I do a lot of vintage, basketball, baseball, football, stuff from 1950s to the mid to late 70s. I have complete sets of things I couldn't even bring here today, but I've got stuff like 52 Topps baseball. Yes. I've got like a lot of other different sets from, again, the 50s and onwards, plus singles. Yeah. I have one came back recently. A big card was a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's or Lou Alcindor at that point in time, 69-70. And one just came back in my PSA shipment as a PSA 8. Wow! So pretty big card. I was really nice. really happy about that one.
Yeah, no, that's great, and that's a good segue to my next question, which is, how do you, obviously you acquire a lot of these great cards, but how did you acquire this one specifically? Do you remember?
I do actually. I actually had a 7.5 that I acquired a little over a year ago.
And we're talking about the Star Rookie.
About the Star Rookie. I had a 7.5. Somebody brought it to my booth. I bought it from them. I held on to it for quite some time. Okay. I put it away. I kind of forgot about it. But recently at the Burbank Card Show in California, in Anaheim, someone came up to me with an 8.5 and they wanted to trade down. Okay. So they gave me the 8.5. I gave them some cash and my 7.5, and I upgraded to an 8.5.
Amazing.
That's how it happened.
Is that how? Because I always wonder about this. Because I always like to look for opportunities to trade up. But I guess that's the best way, right? If you see a higher grade, and you have a lower grade, and you want to trade up, add some cash, and then you got a better.
That's what it took to get it. So I was happy, and that particular individual came to me, and we made the deal in literally less than 5 minutes.
No way.
And I would say in under 5 minutes, we made that deal.
Wow. There you go. Yeah. 5 minutes, $80,000-$90,000 deal, just like that.
Yeah.
How about the 9.5 Jordan 1986 Fleer?
So I acquired that from a friend of mine, and we sort of have, how can I say this? We sort of have a partnership in this card. Okay. So when the card sells, we will split it. Let's just call it that, right? But I'd acquired this particular card, I would say back in 2020. Okay. And I made a trade for it. So I got it that way, and then my friend sort of bought into it, and then we've had the card for quite some time. All right, cool. Right? So yeah.
Okay, and this podcast episode, and we'll put this on YouTube as well, but we wanted this to be a little bit of a show and tell as well. So you did bring us a couple of other Jordan cards.
I did.
Can you talk to me about these two right here? What do you like about it? What's the appeal for those two cards?
So these
non-rookies too as well.
These are non-rookies. Yeah. These are autographs.
Yes.
And they are hard signed autographs. But the thing is too, they're affordable Jordan autographs because they're on North Carolina. So his Bulls autos go for quite a bit more, like 3-4x easily on some autos. Yep. This one here by the letter, this was a really tough grade. And Jordan signed here on the letter itself. It got a 10 auto with a 9.5. These thicker cards are very difficult. Yeah. This is numbered to 23. So I like numbered, hard signed Jordan autos.
That's what you look for, yeah.
That's what you look for, right? Preferably in a high grade. Sometimes, these thicker cards are all damaged, so you can't even grade them.
What year was that before you
This was 12-13, Upper Deck, SP Authentic by the letter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right?
Nice card.
And then there is this one here from Ultimate Collection. And again, this one is numbered to 23. Yeah. Beautiful hard signed auto.
Nice and bold.
This is really nice and bold. This is one of my favorite Jordan autos because it's so clear and crisp. Yeah. Right? And again, it's a pretty high grade. Actually, it's 0.5 away from a 9.5. And this one here, again, is numbered to 23. So that's kind of what I like. Right? And comparatively speaking, these are about $5,000-$6,000, right? So if you took the same Bulls autos, you'd probably be looking at $15,000 or $20,000.
Crazy. Yeah, that's a premium. Okay. Right. Do you have a preference in what slabs they're in, or MJ cards?
No,
MJ cards?
Not really. I mean, it would be nice to have them, in PSA slabs, right. But the Beckett slabs look really nice, especially for thicker cards. They're wonderful for thicker cards. Yeah. So I don't mind them. If they're just regular size cards, I kind of prefer them in PSA, but not necessarily. Some cards are just better visually with Beckett.
Yes, podcast listeners will know that I'm a huge Beckett fan. Yeah, I just wish they had better marketing than just like PSA. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. But what's interesting to me when you showed me the this pack was that the 1987 Fleer basketball pack, unopened, I always wonder why people like to slab packs.
They basically like to slab the packs for its authenticity. Okay. So you want to make sure you're getting a pack that hasn't been opened and resealed. Right. And this one definitely has not, because it was graded by Beckett. It was authenticated by Steve Hart. Steve Hart is from BBCE. Okay. Right? Yeah. He does all the authentications on the boxes, the old wax boxes, and variable things, right? So this one, I believe, took about 4 or 5 months before I got it back. I had a box of this, and I just happened to open the box, and I looked at this pack, and on the back of this pack was a Jordan, a second-year Jordan.
Yeah, you can see the back of the Jordan
there. You can see it clearly here. It's hard probably on camera, but you'll see it's got the Chicago Bulls logo, the number, and you'll see Jordan, like very, it's not as prevalent, but it is there. And it was great. And it was graded as a 9 from PSA. Yeah. This is the highest grade. So there were I want to say 11 or 12 packs that were graded, but this is by far the highest grade for a second-year Jordan pack. Right. Right. So this is the most valuable card. That's the most valuable card, obviously, in the 87, 88 packs.
Of course. And you kind of told me off air, but how much do you think a pack like that would go for? A PSA 9.
I would put this pack probably right around $10K, because if this was an 86 Fleer pack with a Jordan rookie on the front, that would be well over $100K.
Yes.
So and that would be for a PSA 9. I don't think there would be I don't think there's any PSA 10s, but that one that's kind of where I would put this one.
Okay. Can you explain to me, when a pack is graded at PSA 9, is the assumption that the cards would also be close to a PSA 9 grade?
No.
Okay.
Not at all. They're just grading specifically on the pack itself, how nice it is, how nicely it's sealed.
Oh, I see.
There's no crinkles, creases, that kind of thing. Okay. So yeah.
No, that's good to know.
Just because the pack is nice doesn't mean the cards inside are nice. Right. They could have gum damage. They can have aging. There could be a lot of issues. Sure. Off centering.
Yes.
So
that's true.
There's no reason to assume, for example, that Jordan will be a PSA 9 or 10 if you open this pack, right?
That kind of answers my next question, because I was curious, why wouldn't anyone just open it and try to grade that Michael Jordan card? Because there's no guarantee.
There's no guarantee, and the rarity in the pack form, with it being on the back of the pack, has more rarity than the actual Jordan itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point. Well, we went through the Michael Jordan lineup. That was great. I love seeing this. I'm gonna take a picture of them later on after we finish recording this because I don't know when the next time I'll get to hold a BGS 8.5 star rookie or BGS 9.5 of the 1986 player. But I also want to, before we move on, there's one more basketball card that we want to talk about. I'm sure you heard about the SGC 10 that sold recently for $1.7 million.
$1.7 million.
We're, of course, talking about Will Chamberlain's rookie card. But you have a Will Chamberlain rookie card, which looks beautifully centered. You want to talk about how you got that card and what you like about it?
I bought a collection about a year ago. I want to say year and a half ago. Yeah. I bought 2 complete sets of 61 Fleer basketball. Wow. And there were 2 Will Chamberlains, 1 in each set. Mm-hmm. And this was the better one. And I sent this to PSA to have graded. Yeah. It was beautifully centered. I feel like I got a little robbed because this particular card has a white dot on the top of his head there.
It's just part of his hair.
Yeah. If that's not on there, I feel like this is an 8 at a minimum.
Just like that.
Right? So I might have gotten points deducted. At that time, PSA was not giving notes. Right.
Express
now
notes.
They are express notes, right? So because I sent this, I think 5-day service.
Yeah.
Right? And at that time, they weren't giving you any explanation why this wasn't an 8. Right? So I would think that I really feel if that wasn't there, this would have been a minimum of an 8. I mean, you'll never get a better centered card that's in nice shape with beautiful 4 corners. Even the back is beautiful too. Yeah. So it's very, very clean. I've owned many 61 Fleer cards in general. Yeah. They're very difficult to grade. Like if you send in 100, you might get a 9 on one, maybe an 8. I don't even think the last couple I've sent in, maybe 8 was the highest I got. I don't think I even got a 9.
That's pretty good,
right? So this is one of the key, if not the key card from the 1960s. Sure. The next Will Chamberlain after this would be the 69 Topps with the Kareem rookie. Right. So that would have been his first Topps rookie, but for Fleer, this is it.
That's the card,
right?
Yeah.
And then the next Chamberlain, again, is the 69 Topps.
Yeah, iconic player, iconic card. Off the top of your head, just to give people an idea, but if you did get an 8, what would be the differential in value, do you think?
8 is huge. I mean, this one here is close to maybe 15 to 18,000 US. Mm-hmm. I think the 8s are, I want to say, are in the range of 40 to 50.
Wow, okay.
And then a 9 would be in the range of like 200,000. Right? So somewhere in there, which is, you had an SGC 10, which I can't wait to talk about that because I have a card in one of those. Right. Not the Will Chamberlain, but with regards to the way they grade this card, they're very difficult on it.
Sure.
You're not going to pull a lot of 7s or 8s. I mean, unless you found a complete set or something that hasn't been touched for over 60 years. Yeah. Which is almost near impossible with the amount of hands it trades through, right? Yeah. So,
well, that brings an interesting question. And you said you got this Will Chamberlain from purchasing a complete set.
Yes.
How often do you come by customers or collectors that say, "Hey, I actually have a complete set. Do you want to take a look at it?"
Yeah. Actually, believe it or not, it happens more often than not. Once you kind of put your name out there and what you're buying. Yeah. People will come to you, especially if you pay fair. Yeah. They and I specifically look for vintage baseball, vintage basketball, vintage football. Yeah. Right. I'm not really in the hockey arena too much, but those particular ones, I always buy them, and if they're in high grade, I literally will not let that person leave until I purchase it.
Right.
So high grade will put me at a level where I will do my very best to purchase it.
Yeah.
Low to medium grade is a different story. Sure. But I try.
No, I would have never expected it. I was kind of chuckling there a little bit because we're Canadians, yet both of us, we don't really collect a lot of hockey. So basketball and baseball is our go-to sport. You mentioned the SGC 10, Will Chamberlain, of course, that sold for almost $2 million. But you have an SGC 10. I think it's a good segue to baseball cards, because we do talk a lot about baseball cards on our podcast. So do you want to talk about this monster here?
Sure. So this card is a 1968 Johnny Bench rookie. Mm-hmm. Okay. There are only 3 SGC 10s. This was graded maybe 2 months or so ago.
Okay.
The person that had the card, that graded the card, came to see me at the Fanatics Fest in New York.
Right.
And I wanted the card.
Yeah.
And I said, let's come to a deal. And we came to a deal that was fair for both of us. I really wanted it because it's the second biggest card in the 68 top set, only second to Nolan Ryan.
Yes, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So this particular card, when he came by my booth, I was ultimately interested. And I said, let's make a deal. I came up a bit because there was really no comps on this card.
Right. So there's only 3 in this.
There was only 3.
Right.
So it was very difficult. And the PSA 10s of this card, the last PSA 10 sold about a year ago, and that went for about $70,000.
Wow.
And before that, it was higher.
Yeah.
I can't remember the comp before that, but that was during the COVID bubble, so it might have been a little inflated.
A little skewed, yeah.
Yeah, and there is a PSA 10 currently on Golden right now, so I am watching that and bidding on it actually.
Oh, all right.
So yeah.
And
so I'm curious to see where that finishes off for, but. Listen, SGC 10s, don't knock them. I mean, Will Chamberlain, 1.7 million, that was pretty incredible.
Getting some good respect, yeah.
SGC is getting a lot of respect, and
especially for vintage.
For vintage, the other thing that makes me buy vintage is pop report.
Right.
So if a pop report on a high grade card is low, I want it.
Yes.
Right? It's about rarity, condition. People will always pay on condition. Now, that market is a little narrow because sometimes those cards are, tens of thousands compared to low grade one, which might be in the hundreds or 1,000.
Sure.
But I like to have those types because there are always people, no matter how narrow the market is, that will always buy those. Yeah. Right?
For sure. Yeah. And I guess you run into a lot of these potential customers. We talked about this before at bigger shows like the National, especially in the US. I'm sure even at Burbank, I know you frequent those shows as well.
I frequent those shows as well. National is always at the top. You'll never get as many people or see as much vintage or, do as much trading or selling as you ever will at a National. Sure. Just on the sheer volume of people. Of course. I have had a lot of success at Burbank, if we're talking just strictly US shows. Yeah. Also, I'm looking forward to the first Fanatics show, regional show, which is going to be in Orlando. Yeah. So, and at the one that just passed, the Fanatics Fest, I think that was a pretty good show overall, even though it was a lot of autographs, a lot of like celebrities, that kind of thing. For sure. But we're going to see exactly what happens in Orlando.
Yes, that'll be interesting to watch.
That's going to be interesting to watch. But of course, where I've done some of my best business is the Toronto Sport Card Expo.
Interesting.
I have been doing that for the better part of 30 years. And I'm 55, guys. So I've been doing it a long time.
People know you. People know you in the hobby for sure. And I actually, you know what? We got like a few more cards left, but before we go to the big baseball ones,
sure.
Since we're talking about shows, and we'll talk about Fanatics Collect Orlando at the very end, but you're going to be at the upcoming CSC show.
I am.
In Mississauga, GTA area for our American friends.
Yes.
But compare that show to obviously the bigger shows like the Expo, National. Like, what do you like about shows like CSC, which is smaller, still sizable, but smaller compared to the National and Expo?
The CSC show is probably the best one-day show in Canada. Maybe even two-day show.
Okay.
You get a lot of people. There's a lot of advertising behind it. Yeah. They have done a great job of mixing it now. It's not just sports cards. You've got sports cards. You've got TCG. Yes. They're implementing for next year things like a cosplay. They're implementing a number of different spaces, if you want to call it, and put it all into one show. Yeah. So there's a little bit for everyone. If you walk into that show, and you're not looking for sports cards, you want Pokemon, for example, or Magic or whatever. There's people for that. There's people for anime. There's people for art. So the show is incredibly diverse. It's always in a great location. Yeah. This one here is at the Mississauga Convention Center, and it's on September 22nd, this Sunday coming. It's clean, it's nice, lots of parking. That is such a key thing. That is key.
Yes.
A lot of parking at the Mississauga Convention Center. Everything is organized. There's security there. People should feel safe. They should feel good about what they're doing. And, I recommend it highly over, you've got Expo as, at the top for trade shows. But Expo's been around for 30 years.
It's got history. Yeah.
It's got history. But for anybody that is attending, you definitely would want to go to that one. You'll find anything you want.
Yeah, no, yeah. I could certainly vouch for that. I brought my 6-year-old, 7-year-old son.
Okay.
And he was all into Pokemon.
Right.
So he was entertained. I was into sports cards, so I was entertained.
Right.
So like you were just mentioning, there's something for everyone.
Yeah.
When you compared the people that come to your booth at the National or even at CSC, are they the same or different?
Very different. Like at CSC, I'll get a lot more people bringing me modern stuff. Okay. Which sometimes I take and I don't take. Yeah. But at the National and Burbank, those types of shows, vintage. Right. That's pretty much what I advertise. That's what I want. Yeah. I want cards prior to 1980, preferably. Okay. Preferably. Yeah. But, everybody, of course, they want the Jordans, they want LeBrons, they want the Kobes, and I get that, right? So you're looking at stuff from 80s, mid-80s, to, the early 2000s, right? The last couple of years, I don't know. Because some of that stuff is just too volatile for me. Whether it's quarterbacks, whether it's Luka, whether it's Victor Wembanyama, I don't know, right? It's just up and down, too much for me. So
I wait till it settles down.
Yeah, I wait till it settles down and see what's going on afterwards, right?
Good idea. And you mentioned that you're more into vintage. So first of all, CSC show. This episode's going to air on Friday. So if you're in the area, go check it out. They reached out to me to see if we want a media pass it. So they're great organizers.
They really are.
So I vouch for everything you just mentioned.
And whoever's coming down there, you guys will have an amazing time. And the good part is, you can bring families. That's what I like about the CSC show too. You'll see a mom and dad and their kids. They'll come. They're going to have a great time, whether they're buying Pokemon or they're doing cosplay or they're just looking at different things, which can excite not only the family unit, it can excite the kids, right? Sure. Yeah. So that's what I really like is the family unit coming to the CSC show. It's very family oriented and. Kids are the future.
There you go.
So, yeah.
There you go. And if you go to the CSC show, you can see some of these monster cards because I know Karlos is going to bring these cards to the show. So let's go on to the baseball ones, which I love seeing vintage baseball, especially in person. Do you want to talk about the Willie Mays? That's a huge card.
This one here is a huge card. So Willie Mays rookie is 1951 Bowman, right? So this would be his
same as Mickey Mantle.
Same as Mickey Mantle, right? So the Mantle and the Mays were in 51 Bowman, which are the true rookies.
Yes.
Okay? I'll say it again, the true rookies. Right. The first 52 tops of both those guys go for immense money. Yeah. But in high grade, they go for insane money, right? So this one here, I got in a trade. Yeah. I want to say about a year ago or so. From BVG, and it's a very high grade for a Mays card. To give you an example, like this one here is probably right around the $30K range.
The BVG 6.
The BVG 6.
Yep.
A Mantle in this same range might be $250,000, right? Yep. So there's quite a big difference, right? The Jackie Robinson in this set. So the Mantle and the Jackie are in the high series, where the Mays is in the low series. So cards 1 to 310 are low. Cards 311 and up are the high series. So the high series generally go for more money, which include both the Jackie and the Mickey Mantle.
Right.
And so Jackie in this grade would go for quite a bit of money, at least 6 figures in this grade, right?
I just read an article in The Athletic about the Willie Mays cards and Willie Mays cards in general, but and we talked about it on our podcast before too, the fact that you got Mickey Mantle and you got Willie Mays in the same set, but one is obviously valued much higher. Do you think Willie Mays is underrated in a lot of ways?
I think he is underrated. Mantle gets the glory of any set from 1951 Bowman to his last card, 1969 Topps. He's always the highest, or with the exception of the rookies.
Right.
Okay?
Sure.
So any of the key rookies, like if Mantle's in there, then he'd be second to the key rookie in there.
Yeah.
But for cards that are not key rookies in those sets, Mantle commands the highest. Where you've also got Jackies that command probably second, Mays, Clemente. Those are the players. You've got also in the 60s Pete Rose.
Yeah. Sure.
So these are the cards that command tremendous amounts of money, and they keep going and going. But I would say Mickey Mantle probably, besides Babe Ruth, Mantle would probably be the highest when we're talking about 50s and up.
Right.
But prior to 1950, the king is Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth cards are much more sought after than Mantle, simply based on scarcity.
I always say it doesn't hurt that you play for the Yankees. That's a huge plus.
Yankees are probably the crown jewel of the MLB. Okay. So anybody that did play or has played on the Yankees normally and I'm even talking about young players today,
right?
Jason Dominguez,
right?
You're talking about Jeter. Anybody that played on the Yankees,
pinstripes,
anybody that played on pinstripes, they are usually highly sought after.
Yes,
the Yankee organization has done that, and whether it's Mantle, whether it's Ruth, whether it's Jeter, whether it's DiMaggio, Lou Gehrig, these are all players, Hall of Fame players, that people constantly and consistently buy on the Yankees.
For sure.
Not only because they're Hall of Famers, but because they played for the Yankees.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to close the point about Willie Mays, I'm always looking for undervalued cards, and I just feel like Willie Mays, the career that he had, and just people get more people getting into the hobby. I feel like there's going to be a bump coming soon. I'm just calling it right now.
There will be a bump, but I'm going to give the viewers a little tip here. If you see any vintage cards that are PSA 7 or 8, maybe higher, and you get them for somewhat of a reasonable deal, buy them. Okay? That's what I consistently buy in the United States. Anytime I see high-grade vintage and it's in that, because generally, anything that's being graded now, you're not going to get 7s and 8s. It's just not happening, right? Anything that was a mint or a near mint card probably has gone through PSA already, or Beckett for that matter. So, people always ask me, what am I buying? That's
there you go.
At the top of my list.
Right.
Anything high-grade vintage is what I'm buying.
Yeah, no, there you go. And, I kind of wanted to ask you this as well. It just made me remind myself of it. But when you buy these higher grade vintage, you always have to be careful about whether it's authentic or whether it's a fake. That's been, sadly, some people have been ripped off by that. Have you, over time, you can see right away?
I can.
Is that?
I've seen a lot of fake slabs, but more on modern stuff. The cards in there were fake. The slabs were fake. But after holding slabs, looking at them, looking at cards, you get the feel for what's real and what's not. It just comes with experience. I bought 86 Fleer Jordan rookies that were raw, and I graded them, and I remember one person selling me a whole bunch because nobody in the room would buy them because nobody knew if they were authentic or not.
Scared,
But I knew what to look for, so he sold them to me. Right? It's just a matter of experience and looking at cards. Look, I mean, it can happen. I could, mistakenly buy a fake, right? It can happen. My eyes aren't what they used to be. So it can happen, right? And you can make that mistake. But generally, you can get a feel of the slab. You can get a feel of the card. So you have to be really careful. Yeah. Also, the big giveaway is like, okay, you want to bring me a PSA 10 Jordan rookie and you want to ask like a third of the value?
Yeah.
That's a pretty much dead giveaway.
Too good to be true.
It's too good to be true.
Yes.
Anybody that you find like you're getting a deal that is just so ridiculous,
right.
Okay? Yeah. Like, that should be your first red flag.
Red flag, yes.
Okay? It shouldn't be like, oh my God, I just got this card for like a third of the value. The first thing that would go, why is this person only asking for a third of what it's worth? Yeah. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me, right? You know, anybody selling a Jordan PSA 10 rookie would obviously know what the value is on that card. You would know.
For sure,
right?
For sure. There you go.
You wouldn't just walk up to a table and say, hey, give me $20,000 for this $200,000 card, right? Like, you know, it just
that's a dead giveaway. Yeah, for sure. Good point, good advice. Well, you do have a couple of vintage baseball cards in lower grades, but these are just as valuable because, like you said, they're hard to find in these higher grades. Is that right? They
are.
So like for Ted Williams, Joe DiMaggio.
So for Joe DiMaggio, here's a play ball. This is from 1939, right? Great card. And it's an early card of Joe DiMaggio. Play ball was, I believe they were issued, if I'm not mistaken, in 39 and 40. But one of the biggest names, obviously, in the play ball is Joe DiMaggio. It's a great card, black and white. That's what it looks like on the back. Very clear, right? So anybody that loves the Yankees and Joe DiMaggio, that's one of the cards to get.
It's iconic. It's
an iconic card, that particular one. I get a lot of clicks on this particular card because people just don't see it, right? This is a card that people have seen, and every grade that it gets higher, it's incrementally more money.
You're talking about the 1952 Bowman of Mickey Mantle.
52 Bowman of Mantle. Yeah. So this is a second-year Mantle, right? Which is, of course, we just discussed about the 51 Bowman, right, being his rookie. So this is a nice one. People like this particular pose because it's vertical.
Right.
Right?
Whereas the 51 Mantle, the rookie year, was horizontal.
Right?
I agree. Yeah.
So this one here, people really like. It's got a nice picture of his face, the Yankees hat, the pinstripes. Like, people just love the picture.
Oh, it's a nice looking card.
It's a really nice, you know, if this one doesn't have a crease through it, you know, it's a lot higher grade, but it's a great card to have.
Yeah. The only card that's better than this in the 1952 is, of course, the iconic 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle.
That's correct.
Right. In terms of visual appeal.
Yes.
But I agree. I'm not a big fan of horizontal cards. So if I was collecting Mantle from the Bowman set, I think I would gravitate more towards the 1952 Bowman, but amazing looking card.
It is.
And you have a couple more. We got to talk about hockey to represent our Canadian collectors.
We do.
And Bobby Orr is one of the iconic hockey players. Of course, played for the Boston Bruins. But that's, tell me about this card that you have.
So this card here is very interesting. I bought a collection. This card here was originally, and it's on my Instagram, Sluggers55, right? I cracked. So in the collection, there was a KSA 3 Bobby Orr. Yeah. And I was like, I want to look at this card and measure this card up and whatever. And I said, this looks a little better than a KSA 3. So I cracked it and I submitted it to PSA at the Fanatic show. Okay, actually.
Nice.
And it came back as a 3.5.
There you go.
You know, PSA. So that's what this card is.
Looks nice.
You know, it's beautifully centered. If it wasn't for this little wear,
soft corner,
and a couple of soft corners, this might be a 6, right? But you know, it is what it is, and it's one of the most iconic hockey cards in like there is, other than a Gordie Howe, a Bobby Orr, George Vezina, any of those type of cards, right? This is one of the most sought-after vintage rookies, right? Other than, you know, I mean, Gretzky, if you want to put him in the vintage range, then you can. Right. But you basically, it's Gretzky or Howe. And whatever, you know, however you want to put those, you know, 1, 2, 3, that's usually who everybody's looking for.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed. And lastly, this is a little bit more modern, but I'm glad you brought it because it's... you also look for not just vintage, but like if they're modern, you prefer, I'm sure, GOAT players. Right?
Only GOAT players, I mean, if they're modern.
He has a soccer card. Pele, of course, is the GOAT.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a beautiful card. Did you get this recently as well? The 2022 Eminence World Cup Pele.
I want to say I got that about a year ago. I made a trade for it. So this particular one is called Transcendent Talents. Sticker auto by Pele. And it's on Panini, their most expensive product called Eminence.
Right.
Okay, so this is a very expensive pack this comes out of, right? This was numbered to 5, so there are variations of this card, but again, when I buy these types of cards, I try to get one of 1s, one of 3s, one of 5, that kind of thing, right? Sure. And you're talking about one of the greatest soccer players ever in the history of the game. I mean, he's up there as far as I'm concerned with Messi and Ronaldo, right? And this one here, I graded it with PSA. I was curious, but it's a thick card again. So they very rarely give out PSA 10s on these types of cards. But a 9 is just as good. And I got an auto as a 10, even though that this is a sticker auto. I think this auto was done close to about when he passed. So there would have been no on-card autos at that time. So I would think that Panini would have had some extra stickers and put that one on.
And to your point, what you said earlier, it adds to the scarcity of these cards.
Yes.
Right? Certainly, after a legend like that passes, that there's only a finite amount at this point.
There is. I mean, there are variations of that card, but I try to get the lowest numbers possible, right? Because I find, most people like that kind of stuff.
For sure. On a side note, we have another co-host of our podcast, John. And his one of his pet peeves is big slabs. How do you feel about large slabs?
Oh my God, I know, but there's nothing you can do. That's the way that's the way they graded it. I mean, I would have liked a smaller slab, obviously, right? But carrying those around can be a pain, and there's a lot of weight to it.
Yes.
It's fairly heavy, right? Compared to a regular PSA slab, right? But that's how they grade these Transcendent cards, right? Or Eminence cards, right? So yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? The last thing I want to talk about, and we already kind of teased it, but Fanatics Collect Orlando. It's interesting. It's Fanatics Fest New York City, but they're marketing this Fanatics Collect Orlando. Because we talked to EJ at Fanatics Fest NYC actually, and he said that this Orlando show is going to be primarily geared towards collectors. So
that is correct.
It makes sense that they're rebranding it a little bit. It's not just a festival of all different sports culture and things like that, but what are you expecting at the Orlando show? And I know when you were on our pod previously, you mentioned that Orlando is one of the key venue cities to have a show like this.
Yes.
So why do you think that, and what are your expectations? And what do you hope that is different from the one we were just at in New York City?
So this one is geared mainly towards cards as opposed to athletes and celebrities. So this one is a pure hobby show as far as I'm concerned. I'm very good friends with EJ. Yep. We speak twice a week.
Oh, nice.
And, I've given input to Fanatics simply because you want to have the best possible show. Yeah. And the people who've been around a long time can give you insight on how to make that show great.
For sure.
So I feel there are several locations in the United States for a perfect show because it's got to be the perfect storm. So the perfect storm is basically different states. Florida is a great state. Lots to do on the East Coast. Right. You've got Disney World, Disneyland. Yeah, Disney World. Yeah. And it's just a great place to have a show because of weather as well.
Right.
Okay?
Sunny, yeah.
It's just everything in Florida is nice as far as I'm concerned. So that's a great place to have it. California is another hub to have a great show.
Right.
And that's the reason why Burbank show thrives as well. You've got weather, you've got ocean, you've got scenery, and generally, the state of California is amazing. So that would be another one. Yeah. New York,
of course,
for sure, is a hub to have.
Yeah.
Okay. Very exciting, New York. The only other state I would say would be really good to have a show is Nevada. So, Vegas, right? Yeah. So you want to have shows, if we're talking strictly the United States, you want to have them in states that are fun, lots to do, family-oriented, weather, all of that matters,
sure.
right? And, nobody wants to go to a location that's minus 30, right? And, it's just like so hard to get to the venue, or it's out in nowhere. Usually, most of these shows are in big centers, very clean, very nice, extremely pleasant to be in. And that's why they thrive. That's why they have a good turnout, right? And people are willing. Like, if you think about it, if somebody says, "Oh, a show's in Florida," oh my God, you know what? We'll go to the show and we're gonna go to the beach.
Make a trip out of it.
Or we're gonna make make a trip out of it, right?
Yeah.
So there is lots to do when you go to a locale like Florida.
Absolutely.
I can't speak for any of the other states. I'm sure some of them are amazing, but those are probably the 3 or 4
Makes sense
that I would agree to go to opposed to somewhere else.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what? That being said, come to the Toronto show in November.
Yes.
It is a little bit cold, but if you're into hockey especially, I think that's primarily why we have a November show. The hockey card collector.
The hockey cards, Upper Deck Hockey Series 1 comes out. I always recommend the Toronto Sport Card Expo. I will promote them until the end of time. So all the Americans that haven't enjoyed or come down to that show, you need to come down to Expo as well. Yes. Not only the CSC show, which is on the 22nd, but the Toronto Sport Card Expo, which is in the second weekend of November. Yep. It's actually a week after the Orlando show.
Yeah. No, and going back to the Orlando show, I know one of the complaints from vendors, because we talked to a bunch afterwards when we were shooting content, but it was the price of setting up. But I saw that I think it's only $300, $350 for a table. So
$350.
Cheaper to set up at the Orlando show.
Much cheaper to set up. The flight is reasonable. The hotels are reasonable. New York is that was my most expensive venue. Yeah. From the table to the hotel to the flight to the food. Everything that was my greatest expense structure for any show of 2024. I can say that right now, right? But you know what? I mean, we did very well there, and at the end of the day, I went down there for content. I wanted to be at the very first one. I didn't want to miss it. Yeah. So the expense was okay. It was expensive, but I grinned and bared it, right? This is what it costs. Okay. Now I've done the first one, and now we're going to do the Orlando. So I think it's going to be, Fanatics is doing something really special. And I think that they will be, their shows will be special going forward as well. I think they're going to put a lot into it.
Agreed.
They're doing everything right, whether it's on social media, whether marketing is amazing. Yeah. So if they've got the best marketing and team strategy, they've got people that they call and say, hey, you know what? How can we make this show better? Yeah. Tell us how we can make it better. Yeah. And you know what? I like that, because that's how you grow and learn. You have to be able to ask somebody how we can make this show better or the very best. And you have to take away from what other shows are doing. Like, what is their secret sauce, right? Yeah. You have to attend these shows, see what they're doing well, and implement that into your own show. There's no reinventing the wheel. Yes. Okay. Right. Right. That's all there is to it. No, right.
Agreed. And you know what? To close off this episode, what I've read so far, because speaking of EJ, our mutual friend, they're beginning to release details. So there are over 700 vendors. That's almost double what we saw at Fanatics Fest NYC.
Yes.
Orange County Convention Center, which is, I just read, the second largest convention center in the U.S. at 7 million square feet of space.
Interesting. I didn't know.
Yeah, I'm sure they won't occupy the whole 7 million, but it's going to be a big venue. And if FF was any indication, it's going to be a great venue. Very
the Javits Center was second to none. Yeah. That center was amazing. Yes. That venue was incredible.
Yeah. Right. I'm getting preparing myself. If you go to National in Chicago or Rosemont, I know it's not going to be as great as the Javits Center. I know you've been plenty of times, but
yes,
but it'll be a different vibe.
It will be.
So we're looking forward to that as well. But Carlos, appreciate your time. I knew this was going to be a great discussion.
Great.
And love your cards. And if you want to see some of these cards in person, CSC show coming up this Sunday in Mississauga. And we'll put that on our show notes below.
Right. Thank you guys for listening in.
Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.